Hello, everybody. This is your host Akriti Anand once again, and I welcome you all to Thai Global Summit, world's largest global summit for the entrepreneurs by the entrepreneurs. We have witnessed some great sessions, and there are many more sessions which are coming up that we look forward to. Not to forget, at 6:30, the Chief Minister of Delhi himself, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, is coming, and he will be talking about making Delhi a global startup destination. Well, I am definitely looking forward for it. But moving on, the next session is on something which we all look forward to learning as much as possible on. What is leadership? The word leadership can bring in mind a variety of images. For example, a political leader pursuing a passionate personal cause, an explorer cutting a path through the jungle for the rest of his group to follow, an entrepreneur developing his company's strategy to beat the competition. Leaders have themselves and others to do the right things. They set direction, build an inspiring vision, and create something new. They map out where you need to go to win as a team, as an organization, and it is dynamic, exciting, and inspiring. The next session is on leadership mantras. And it wouldn't be an exaggeration if I would say that the panel present over here collectively holds the wisdom exceeding the most celebrated books on the subject. Well, on the panel, we have Mr. Vineet Nair. Welcome, sir. He's the former CEO of HCL Technologies and founder of Sampark Foundation. Joining him is Mr. Jay Shroff, Global CEO UPL. Along with him, we have Mr. Harish Bhatt, brand custodian, Tata Group. And moderating this panel is none other than the president of TI Hyderabad, chief managing director, Control S and Cloud 4C, Mr. Sridhar Pinapureddy. He is the first generation entrepreneur and the founder of Control S data centers and Cloud 4C. Today, the group has presence in 25 countries and 50 locations worldwide. Welcome, Mr. Reddy and the panel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you, Akriti, for the amazing introduction and also defining leadership. You made my job easy. For those of you watching, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what are we going to get out of this session today? I'm afraid not much. You're not going to get anything out of this session except under one condition. If you listen carefully, observe, then only you get something out of it. Because leadership is not a subject that can be, that can come to you easily. It is not through the words. It is through the experience that you need to feel from these people. Otherwise, you have books in your shelf. You don't need to come here, isn't it? So, what do we expect from here? Again, not much, but we have got three people here, and if you carefully observe and listen from their experiences, I'm sure you will take home something which will change your life forever. I can guarantee you that. If it is not coming in the next 40 minutes, send me a text, ask a question. You could do it throughout the session. Ask the questions, Akriti or me will pick it up and then try to clarify. So I'm excited. Just like all of you, I am also excited. Last 4 months I am putting together this conference has been a complete new learning experience for me. For the first time, I'm heading a voluntary organization, and the last 1 year has been easier, but ever since we took up TGS, handling 50, 60 volunteers, all are established entrepreneurs who worked for this summit, was a challenge. And I felt like a kid that I need to learn so much. So I'm also excited, like all of you, to be on this panel and learn from our senior folks. All three of them have led global organizations, have led we have 2,000 people. They have led probably one more zero or two more zeros. That's what we have here today. So, and then most of you are also leaders, entrepreneurs, right? You must be thinking, I'm already established leader, my company, my people love me. Now, what do I need to do here? But we all understand that Sir Isaac Newton is one of the biggest men, and one day he wrote, and it's a popular quote. He said that he told to his competitor scientists, right? It is by standing on the shoulders of the giants. Right? If Sir Newton Isaac can do that, we all need to be humble enough and let's get to the work right now. And first question. We have Vinny somewhere, right? We have Vinny quoted somewhere saying that. One second, let me pick up. Vinny, it's a surprise for you. The journey of entrepreneurship does not start from what you want to be. The journey of entrepreneurship does not start from what you want to be, but from what you don't want to be. It's like a riddle. I'll read it once again. The journey of entrepreneurship does not start from what you want to be, but from what you don't want to be. Vinith, can you tell our audience, great audience today, what you meant by this?
Let me start with this idea came from when I was 4 years old. I was playing cricket in front of my house in Nagpur. We were in National Environment Research Institute. My father used to work there. And these were government quarters and there were multiple floors of it. And one of my friend hit the ball which broke the window pane of a very famous agriculture scientist, Dr. Chalpati Rao. And because the ball was mine, I knocked on the doors of Dr. Chalpati Rao and said, can I have my ball back? During those days, you can actually do anything to anybody's child and your parents will applaud because somebody else has disciplined the child. So Dr. Chalpati Rao took me inside, tied me to a chair in front of the window my friend had broken.
My God.
Which looked like almost, like an hour. And after that, he released me. I was sitting on the porch and crying. And there is Mrs. Anand, who was on the top floor, watched me crying. She called me up. She put me on the dining table, stood me. I was a 4-year-old guy and asked me what happened. So I told her the whole story. And then she asked me the most important question of my life. She says, what are you going to do about it? I didn't understand it. And I told the story all over again, crying more loudly. She asked the same question again, what are you going to do about it? I think fourth or the fifth time, I understood her question was different to the answer I was giving. I didn't respond to her. I got down from the dining table, went down, picked up a brick and broke another window of Dr. Chalpati Rao, knocked on his door and said to the first one I had not broken, but the second one I did because you've already given me punishment. My life lesson is that shit happens, right? It is how you respond to that which matters most. So most of the time, what you potentially can do is an art of the possible, and you can sleep yourself into all those dreams. It's good to be highly aspirational. It's good to do whatever crystal gazing you wish to do. But the issue is, can you close all the doors of what you don't want to do? Therefore, there is no other option but to break the second window of Dr. Chalpati Rao. If you don't have that conviction in yourself to shut whatever you are doing, you will continue to be an ant and never break out to be a butterfly. That was my life lesson, and that is the reason I said that.
Understood. That's amazing story, Vinith. Harish, Tata Group, it has more than 200 years of history. And I'm in the TCS is the biggest IT services company, and I also our client, and we watch very closely how committed uh, all of them, the entire leadership team, work dedicated, and they take decisions worth millions of rupees. And I see the same conviction or the same commitment they take, like any entrepreneur would do for his business. Always I wonder. I do ask this question every Tata executive I meet. And now you are the brand custodian. You understand the culture probably better than anyone else other than the founders. Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, so good, very good question, Sridhar. And that was a wonderful anecdote, Vineet, about shutting doors. Thank you very much. Uh, See, the Tata Group certainly has a very rich history. Just Sridhar, for all our viewers to know, we were founded in the year 1868, which is 152 years back, by a Parsi merchant of Mumbai called Jamshedji Tata. He's often referred to as the father of Indian industry. But I'd like to think of him as the original startup man of India. And let me tell you why. He had a dream, and this is a small story I'm going to take a couple of minutes to narrate. He had a dream that India needed steel of its own. India needed a steel plant of its own. At that time, India did not have an integrated steel plant of its own. And the British who were ruling us actually poo-pooed him. They said, can Indians really make steel? No, you have to import steel from the UK. So he was an entrepreneur in his own right. And actually, the chief engineer of the British Railways said, if the Tatas make steel, I will eat every pound of it. So what did Jamshedji Tata do? He was an entrepreneur. He had to first and foremost find a person who will help him prospect for steel and make steel. He took a ship and went all the way to Pittsburgh in the United States of America, which was the steel city of America at that time. Understood who were the top metallurgists of the world. He found that one of the top metallurgists of the world was Charles Page Perrin in New York. He went to Charles Page Perrin's office, clothed in that Parsi garb and the turban. He told him, and Charles Page Perrin narrates the story, that this man in a strange garb came to me and said, I want to set up a steel plant in India. He had fire in his eyes and fire in his belly. And he said, Mr. Perrin, will you come with me to India? He had passion. He did not have the competence or the expertise of making steel at that time, but he had the passion. And Charles Page Perrin said, that passion and that fire in his eyes and his conviction made me pick up my bag and go to India. And Charles Page Perrin left the comforts of New York to come to the jungles of Eastern India, prospect for iron ore in the jungles of Eastern India, and that is how Tata Steel got set up at Sakchi, which is now called Jamshedpur. Now, of course, there is Kalinganagar and many other units. Jamshedji Tata, by 1913, Tata Steel had started producing steel and actually supplied to the British in the First World War. And Jamshedji Tata's son, Dorabji Tata, is said to have mentioned at that time, if the British engineer kept up his promise, he would have a little bit of indigestion now. So, there were as many challenges, if not more, facing Jamshedji Tata at that time as face our entrepreneurs today. The British did not believe in it. We were not living in an independent India at that time. He did not have the competence or expertise required to make steel in India. Yet he did whatever had to be done to put up a plant that every Indian today is proud of in Tata Steel. Now, the reason he did it was he thought the nation requires it. He thought at that stage the nation requires it. And at various stages, the Tata Group has tried our best to do what we think the community or the nation requires. That, I think, is at the core, Sridhar, of why many of us are very, very committed to the Tata Group that we work for. And because he thought the nation requires it, what did Jamshedji Tata do? When the group became a little more prosperous, Jamshedji Tata and his sons, 66% of the equity of the holding company Tata Sons they actually gave them to Tata Charitable Trusts, which are where the Tata Charitable Trusts, which continue to hold 66% of Tata Sons equity today. So we know that the work we do within the Tata Group, eventually 66% of the dividends go back to the Tata Trusts, and they also help establish institutions like Indian Institute of Science or Tata Memorial Hospital or the Tata Medical Center in Kolkata. So there are two key reasons which define my commitment and that of many of my colleagues to the group. One, I think a lot of the business enterprises that we put up for the sake of the nation and the community. Of course, they're profitable. And of course, they're very, very competitive in their own right. But the larger purpose is they're done for the sake of the nation and the community. And the second is we also know that a large part of what we earn through these companies goes back to the Tata Charitable Trust. I think that's the reason that people like me now have worked in this group for over 33 years and enjoy every moment.
Amazing, amazing, Harish. Now I understand. If you have a higher sense of purpose, uh, it's much more easier to have carry people along with you. Big lesson for all entrepreneurs. So you don't only make money for yourself, keep something, have a bigger goal than that of balance sheet goals, and have a bigger purpose. It could be adding, creating the best product in the world. It could be having a goal of, I was going through another story of Taj Hotels, when the attack happened, how those people stayed in. They didn't run away. They stayed in and they died. Many of them died in trying to save the guests. Those kind of organizations one can build if you have a higher sense of purpose. Let's go to Jai Shroff. Jai Shroff is the CEO of United Phosphorus. Manufacturing, chemicals. And he went into several countries, I don't know, maybe 20, 30, and established factories, manufacturing plants all over, and dealing with the local issues. Each country, we go, as Cloud4C, we are in about 25 plus countries, but our job is very, very easy. We don't, because no one sees us, it's all in the cloud, right? So whereas for you, doing brick and mortar on a global scale, right? How did you go about doing it, Jai, and what were the challenges that you faced? And
Thank you, Sridhar. Really nice meeting everyone, and thanks for the invitation. Yeah, let me just correct you. UPL is in 130 countries.
sorry. Yeah.
We sometimes joke that we have more offices than the government of India has embassies. So, but over the years, we've started to build a much stronger relation with our Indian embassies. Otherwise, we actually worked quite indifferently. I think it's a fantastic challenge. I decided very early on that do we diversify, right? When I was growing up, I had friends whose families had businesses, steel, and next time they'll have textile, and they'll have something else, and restaurants and food business, and etc. We decided that we'll go deep in the subject which we are, and I very earlier on, as I joined the family business, learned that it was a crowded space. I had my father, my mother, all the other people in my uncle, and all the senior management in the family in the company was very close, like family, as you can imagine. And this was a very crowded space. And I also realized the business was too small. And it was embarrassing to say that to my parents, that this is too small. But I decided to do something about it myself, and really started to focus on different things. Fortunately, I had very supportive parents, and every time I came with some idea, my dad would say, "Oh, I've tried that; it doesn't work. it's too difficult. Don't bother. And but he never stopped me. And every time he says it's not going to happen, I went and tried to make sure to prove him wrong, whether it was setting up our businesses in Africa or in Taiwan, or looking at technology partners, etc., etc. And over the years, we built a very strong. We had 4 transformations as UPL, and we are now into our 5th transformation. And we each of them had a different objectives, but every time we came across hurdles, we were able to go across it. So, for example, we were a Indian company with a B2B business. We built a brand business in India. We started to build a B2B business globally, and we realized that actually the value is being taken away by all our intermediaries. And so we made about 50 or so acquisitions around to get market access. So we had an organic and inorganic way of doing that. But basically, we were constrained by the ability to grow, because the access was only allocated through various partners who obviously had their own constraints. We built great relationships, and most of the partners and family businesses who we built relationship eventually sold us their businesses because of the way we dealt with them. And we built a global platform now where about 7 out of 10 farmers in the world would use one of UPL products. And we continue to grow at almost 4 times the rate of our competitors. Average top 10 companies would be growing at 4-5% volume. We are talking about 20% volume growth, at least this last one year.
Sorry to interrupt you. How do you manage all this? I mean, so many people, so many different countries, cultures. What was the biggest challenge with respect to people?
We unlike non-intuitively, we have very few expats around. We work with local teams. We are very engaged with them. There is actually no barriers, right? Once you, as Harsh was saying, that once you are intuitively committed to a goal and you meet the right management team, they understand your goals. It becomes one team. And I have found that through acquisition, we've inherited so many people around the world, and we have very few, handful of people, Indians who run businesses abroad, or our CFOs, or our controllers. Of course, our head office is India. We have a global platform. But it is local people, and how do you energize them? How do you connect with them? How do you have transparency? How do you really have trust? My biggest take home there is when people deserve trust, you give them the trust, and 99% of the people will not let you down. The 1% who let you down shouldn't change your philosophy. And a lot of people, friends of mine, who micromanage, right? If you micromanage a business with 130 countries, impossible. You run it through intuition, you run it through trust, and most people will never be able to cheat you if you trust them. If you empower them and you trust them, you will not have that. And I find that that's the single best tool. You can have all the auditors in the world, but if there's no trust, people go home feeling terrible. And if you have trust, people go home feeling inspired. It makes a big difference.
Amazing, Jai. All the entrepreneurs out there, you may lose sometimes, but blindly trust people. Yes, some people will let you down, but still, that's the best way, because you will win 90% of the time. And that's probably the biggest lesson of Jai's career, or the secret behind his amazing success, 100 plus countries. Let's move on to another one. This will be a quick question and answer kind of thing. Which is your Um, one incident that tested your leadership, uh, you know, or it was in a crisis, your leadership was in crisis, what would that be?
Is that to me or?
To all of you, the same question. We could start the same way as Vinith. We could start with you.
Yeah, so my biggest leadership crisis was that after the success of having transformed HCL, we grew by 7, 8 times in 6 years. I quit everything and decided to set up some foundation to try and bring out a dramatic change in the lives of 2 crore children across India. And I did not realize that, the might of HCL and the resources I had in HCL, when all of them go away and your ambition is intact, but resources are not, you come crashing down. Convincing the political leaders that education is important, convincing them of design thinking and disruptive innovation, convincing them to do pilot, convincing them to go to teachers, and then motivating teachers who don't want to be motivated, getting teachers to do stuff they don't want to do, was my leadership, the biggest leadership challenge. And I think by 2014-15, I was convinced that I had made the biggest blunder of my life, and I'm just going to fail, big time. Fortunately, when we reached 2020, we have 1 crore children in our program with about 30-40% increase in learning outcome across 84,000 schools. So my lesson from all this would be stay the course. If you have the right purpose in mind, and you have the right trust in your idea and the teachers you work with, people you work with, whether they report to you or don't report to you, magic will happen. Just wait it out and magic will happen.
That was amazing. Vinith, ladies and gentlemen, the take home from there is perseverance. Be at it. If you believe in that idea, be at it and hit it so hard, hundreds of times or any number of times as it needed, it will yield any hard task. Thank you for that. Well, let's skip. Jai, what do you? I'll come to you, Harish.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. No, I mean, every as Vineet was saying, any major transition is a big challenge. Obviously, building a global platform, transitioning business from a very comfortable zone every time is a massive change and a massive. You always have to introspect, and you will have the people, the conservative people, and once in a while yourself wake up in the morning and say, why am I doing this? It's so difficult, because while if you're in a leadership position and you have the vision, communicating that vision and getting it executed to get your whole teams around is a big challenge, right? And over a period of time, it becomes easier and easier as you learn and become more confident. But in earlier stages, I remember we used to have a international business department, and in the 80s and early 90s, the RBI controlled a lot of the. If you went abroad, you had to get approval how much money you can take from RBI. All the youngsters today will not remember that, but you got $100 a day or $200 a day maximum to spend. So you got those travelers checks and you went there and you were really happy. So in smaller mid-sized companies, most of the travel was restricted to the chairman and the CEO and the favorites of them, that okay, you're allowed to go because you did very well, go meet this customer or whatever. So international travel was terrible. So at that stage I was like, we had these people sitting in the international department, and I went up there and I was talking to the manager there. I was young. I was 4 years, 5 years into the business. And I said, let's change the rule. I said, everybody in this international department, if they do not travel once a month, they're fired. right? If you're not going to go and talk to customers, you're going to sit there and I remember my uncle coming to me and saying they were having a discussion and they're saying that this kid is going to bankrupt the company very soon because of that. But there are so many such instances where if you are not obviously I had a shock. I was very pure in my thinking and thinking that this is something which we must do to grow our business. And on the other side, my my family was thinking I'm going to try to bankrupt the company. So you go through these shocks. Obviously, there are so many other stories we can tell, but in a journey of an entrepreneur, every 3-4 years, you will go through that transition point where you think, my God, what am I doing? Am I going to fail? And that happens all the time. And it's that conviction and the difference between winners and losers. That is the real difference between a winner and a loser who has that conviction and that extra flight, that extra sleepless night. It's the extra bit of inspiration and conviction which makes the difference between a winner and loser. I just like to say, I tell my team that all I want you to do is work 3 to 5% harder than all our competitors, and that's it. We will win. And it comes from conviction.
Got it. Got it. Harish, I have a slightly modified question. I bumped on this quote. Leaders don't create more followers. Leaders don't create more followers, but they create more leaders. Tata Group seems to be some such thing. Your comments.
No, that is very correct, and that's very correct. And I've seen that happening through my career in the Tata Group. But let me take another story from the Tata Group to illustrate that. I gave you a story initially from Jamshedji Tata, 1890s and 1900s. By about 1940, 1950, the chairman of the Tata Group was J.R.D. Tata. Most Indians would recall him. He was chairman of the group for a very long time. But in his tenure, the group entered aviation. The group entered commercial vehicles through Telco, which is now Tata Motors. The group actually entered IT services through Tata Consultancy Services in 1968-69, and many other industries. In fact, Titan was born in his tenure, the watch and jewelry company. Now, if you look at J.R.D. Tata's entire career, spanning the 50-year period as chairman of the Tata Group, you will see that he created and nurtured a number of leaders who became iconic in their own right. I think as Indians, just very recently, all of us paid homage and tribute to Mr. M.C. Kohli, who was the founder CEO of Tata Consultancy Services. But alongside that, there was Sumant Mulgaonkar, again an iconic leader nurtured by J.R.D. Tata, who created the Tata Motors ecosystem and company. There was Darbari Seth, who created Tata Chemicals and Tata Tea, and many of those companies in their own right. There was Rusi Modi, who used to run Tata Steel as the managing director and chairman of the company. Not just in business, he also very carefully nurtured even the best legal and financial brains. Mr. Nani Palkiwala, for instance, worked very closely with J.R.D. Tata for a long period of time. That is what gave so many engines to the group to grow. The fact that he was able to nurture a good circle of very competent leaders who shared the same value systems as him, and the group, but at the same time had expertise and skills in their respective domains of work. And this has happened in virtually every generation in the Tata Group. It has happened once again when Mr. Ratan Tata was chairman of it, after J.R.D. Tata's retirement. So you're quite right. I've seen that in my own case. I've worked in Titan, and I worked with, for many years I used to report to Bhaskar Bhatt, who was the managing director of Titan when I was the chief operating officer of the watches business and before that the jewelry business. And I've seen that under Bhaskar Bhatt's tenure, the number of leaders he has been able to create within Titan, to his due credit, have been exemplary, which is why the company has been able to grow leaders from its own ranks. So you're right, entrepreneurs who are viewing this should understand exactly what Jay and Vineet were saying, that the moment you trust people, the moment you are able to nurture leaders whom you trust within your ranks, then the ability of your company to scale and grow goes up dramatically.
Vinith, what do you say about leader creating more leaders, not followers?
I think one of the things we all must understand is that all leadership mantra has gone in the industrial age. In the industrial age, we put people in rows and columns so that collectively we could produce more than we could potentially produce individually. So 10 individual people could produce 10. You put them together along with some machines and they collectively produce 100. And all our management principles on pyramid structures, appraisal systems, bell curves have originated out of in the industrial age. And all of them are completely irrelevant. And that at the time we were creating managers. Manager is a French word of breaking a horse into submission. So that entire, multiple decades of industrial revolution saw us create pyramid structures. And yes, J.R.D. Tata was creating leaders, but very few people were. Largely, we were creating Munims and managers who would follow the orders which you would want to give. When the innovation came around digital age, which was about 1.5 decades ago, dramatically everything changed. Technology companies started coming in, technology became big, and innovation became the centerpiece. When innovation became the centerpiece, it was not just about one product idea or one pricing or one market idea. It was about innovation in the periphery of the organization. The employee became the center of attention of everything. So people started measuring not productivity, not efficiency, but innovation per unit person in the organization. And the more innovative the organization was, the more innovative experiences the organization was creating for the customer, the more value and the more growth the company saw. And that was the birth of what we call the employee as a leader. Employee is a leader, and that is where the mantra changed, like employee first, customer second, which I wrote about, where the management was in the business of enthusing, encouraging, enabling each employee to behave like a leader wherever that person is, so that he can create value of the kind nobody else has seen. Jay talked about 3 to 5% work extra, and therefore that would make a significant difference to the organization. You will only work 3 to 5% extra if you believe in the organization, if you believe the organization is investing in you, if the organization believes you are a leader who will take you far. And therefore, it is not just about the general managers and vice presidents who became CEO. It is about every single employee feeling like a leader, feeling empowered. When you create an organization culture like that, in this age, then you create magic. When every single employee wants to climb Mount Everest because he believes in your purpose, believes in self, and has the liberty to take the decision he or she wants and sees the alignment of himself or her goals with your aspirations, that is the day a leader is born. And that is the day your organization moves away from the old traditional industrial age manager mantra, which all bell curve and pyramid structures, and you invert the organization pyramid, make the management responsible to the employee. That is the day a leader is born. And that is the kind of stuff which we need today in our companies. And that is how we will create value of the kind we have never seen ever before.
Excellent. I know it's for you, you have done it. For three of you, you all have done it. Jai, you have done it in 115 countries, right? But our people who are watching here are young entrepreneurs, impatient. Can we give them a cheat sheet? Okay, do these 3-4 things, and your people will feel the way that you just described. 3-4 things, quick. I'm sorry. I'm hungry for adding value. I made a promise. See, at the beginning of this session, I wanted to make sure people get something. Just three, four things. Okay, we'll start with Jai. I mean, Jai, what do you do? Those two, three things. Your people, I know, in
No, no.
developing.
I think first of all, when you are looking at inspiration and leadership, you have to lead by example. You have to have the empathy for failure. You have to build an organization culture where there is acceptance of challenges, right? You have tough discussions. You have transparency in a process. But in the end, you have to have empathy to be able to support, because every entrepreneur has a huge challenge, right? You always go through the fear of failure, and at that time, you have to be there to support them and encourage them. I think this is my view is this is the only thing. Also, allow them to take risk, saying this is risky, but let's do it, right? Or this is too risky, let's do it this way. And I find that even though as you get bigger, you get bureaucratic. How do you sort of everybody doesn't have that. Everybody doesn't have the entrepreneur spirit, and you cannot have everybody as an entrepreneur, though we would like to have. And how do you identify those and encourage them and allow them to grow beyond that? We just announced that because we have country revenue streams, right? So every country manager is allowed to spend up to 1% of his revenue on whatever projects he likes, and it's to create entrepreneurship, right? You have no this. If you ask our financial guys, oh my God, how will we control? No, we don't want to control. I said, it's not your control piece. He can do what he wants, right? Obviously, we have to have a system to capture the innovation going on. But things like that, you have to catch the right people, create an environment for create success in failure, and that will drive that.
Harish, have you seen how does in Tata Group, how does it that happen?
So I can speak. I've been with the Tata Group throughout my career. So I think there are 3 or 4 key things that I've seen, both smaller companies in the group, which are startups in their own right, and larger companies in the group put in place. I will go back to saying the first is the why, the purpose. Let your people, I think everyone in the organization should understand why you're doing what you're doing. It need not be a lofty purpose at all time, but there has to be a higher purpose for what you're doing, why you're doing. And I think it's important that everyone understands that sense of purpose. I do remember, I used to be part of Tanishq for many years. Tanishq was a startup. It was a small jewelry business. We were fledgling. We were making losses. But the clear purpose of transforming the Indian jewelry industry and becoming the finest brand of jewelry for Indian women just kept us going. So it's a very simple purpose which everyone can understand. People on the factory floor can understand. Our salespeople in the field can understand. Managers can understand, and the CEO can understand. So I think that is the first point. The second is a point which has already been made on this panel discussion: empowerment, the ability to take risk, the ability to take decisions. I think that's very, very important for any startup and any company, even as it grows. Typically, that empowerment should not get lost out as you're becoming a larger and larger startup. Don't permit bureaucracy to come your way. Make sure that the right levels of empowerment are there across the front line, across countries, like Jai said, or across divisions or units. The third is, I think you need to ensure that the right skill sets and the right resources are there within the organization to address each of these areas, and that is also very important. Sometimes you need to skill your people with the right skill sets, and very important. Vineet mentioned today's digital age. I think that reskilling the most successful organizations have a hunger in them, a hunger to grow, or a hunger to be more profitable, deliver some value to the, how do you nurture that hunger within the organization? Keep it going all the time so that that hunger is more and more and more. And at the risk of a fifth point, I'll go back to the point that Jay made. Leaders have to walk the talk. Eventually, you may have a purpose, you may have empowerment defined, but eventually, as a leader or the owner of a startup or the founder of a startup, are you walking the talk? Because every day you are a role model for people within your organization. You are being observed, and people will do what they see you doing. So those are some points, Sridhar, I wanted to make.
Amazing. Finally, let's go to the leadership guru who called. He changed the whole paradigm years ago. I read his book almost 10, 12 years ago, I think, Employees First. And he actually changed the whole industry paradigm. When I asked him, Vinith, how do you do that? He said, it's common sense. Yes, it is common sense, but not 12 years ago. Right? So what do you mean? Any cheat sheet? 3 points. Yeah.
Thank you for the comment, and that is the reason I've not been able to write a second book. So, I think the first is that stop being an ant and aspire to be a butterfly. Each one of us, 6 billion people, have a unique DNA. We were meant for a purpose which is far bigger than copying others and walking like ants, wanting to be rich, wanting to be fast, wanting to have this car and wanting to have that title. I think that is the life of an ant. Each one of us is capable of being a butterfly and flying wherever we want to do. Each butterfly movement is an unreasonable expectation. It is like a magician who makes a lady fly in the air, cuts her in half, or makes Taj Mahal vanish because it is outside the boundaries of logic and reason of the audience, but within the boundaries of logic and reason of the magician. So my first mantra is stop being an ant and start dreaming and start working towards being a butterfly. My second mantra is understand that nothing in life you can do alone, nothing at all. It takes a village to build you, and you are very successful entrepreneur or budding entrepreneur or wanting entrepreneur. You have to carry people with you. The only reason for your success will be if many people work very hard for your success. So it is us and not you. And the faster you understand it, there was a very important question asked in the beginning that, do leaders have followers or leaders create leaders? And I would say nobody wants to follow anybody. You have to look at your teenage daughter and son. Do they want to follow you? Do they respect you? No, they want you to be their friends. And therefore, it is very important that you need to develop a leadership style so that you understand you are not alone. And it is very, very critical that you do that. Third is, have an attitude of a diamond cutter or a potter. A diamond cutter and a potter gets excited with rough diamond, with rough clay. So whenever there is an adversity, like in COVID times, get very excited about it because, all the other fools in the competition would not be able to respond. They will hide under the table. You are the only guy who's intelligent to be able to respond and convert this threat into an opportunity. So a diamond cutter gets excited with rough diamond, a potter gets excited with rough clay. Learn that at every corner, at every adversity, it is an opportunity for you to turn right. The last point, and I think the most important point, and I'll end it with a story which is very critical, that I was at top of my game at HCL. New York Times had done a big article on HCL. The Employee First, Customer Second book was doing very well. I was quoted in the Fortune magazine in the global CEO list. And my head was about 10 times larger than it is today. And I made the unfortunate mistake of walking up to my mother and telling her, look, how proud you should be of your son. And imagine if he was born to some other mother. My mother was an English school teacher, and she took a piece of paper, tore it in half, and wrote one word on it. And then she put it in a used envelope and gave it and said, when you are on a flight, that night I was flying to New York, open it and read it. So I was on the flight. I expected that to say, I'm very proud of you, son. I'm so happy to have you. And that had only one word, and that word was enough. I landed in New York and I called back my mother and said, what does this word mean? And she says, if you don't get it, you will get it on your way back. That is my fourth mantra. There comes a time in life when you have had enough earnings, enough recognition, and that is the time you turn your head around and look at all others around you and do your bit till you have the energy to bring them at the same level as you. That would be my fourth mantra.
Amazing, 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 Vineet. Oh my God, there are so many. I have to watch this myself again. Trust me, to refresh my, my learnings from this session. That's amazing, Vineet. In terms of enough, right? This has been going on in my mind. When is enough? Where do you? But I realized that I can't live without work. So what I have started doing is, I said last year I will spend 10% of my time on social service. This year I put about 20%. I hope to take it to at least 50% of my time on giving back to the society, not just in terms of monetary, but in terms of real time commitment. And then as soon as, I don't know when it will happen, but maybe take it at less than 20% of my time towards earning activities and spend about 80% of my time on giving back to the society activities. That's the kind of a trend that we have seen. We are seeing even some of our topmost leaders, the biggest earners of India, including HCL, including Premji, everyone. Yes, they competed, they won, they made billions, and we see them, again spending time and giving back to the society. And that's probably, ultimately, the leadership, the true leader is all about, as Harish said, they get inspired because not only because the value system of Tata Group, because they know that whatever they earn, a rupee, more than half of it is going back to help the needy. And the same thing that I see you are doing right now. In terms of, I see that you are spending more than 80% of your time on giving back to the society. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to see what Vineet has been doing for this. He is working probably, Vineet, I would like you to say about 1 minute in terms of, we don't have much time here. I think we are about to close. 30-40 seconds. We would like to hear from you.
We are using design thinking and innovation to work in the poorest part of the country, in rural schools of Jharkhand, of Chhattisgarh, of 6 states, and trying to bring about a radical change in learning outcomes, working with 3 teachers, touching the life of 1 crore children. And as I said, we have just started. And that is what my life is all about. Before I die, I hope we touch 2 crore children and change their lives. And that is 10 times more worth than whatever rest I have done in my life.
That is amazing. Amazing. Any last comments, Jai?
No, that's inspiring, Vineet. I think it's really fantastic. At UPL, we are committed to improve farmer resilience. We are investing heavily in technology and services to really give them a level playing field. And what we take for granted in our day-to-day lives. If you look at farmers around the world, they are really suffering a really not even reputational issue, but also they don't have access to the same tools as we take for granted. So we are committed to transforming lives of farmers and transforming the food system.
Thank you, Jai. I mean, UPL is also on the path. I see you slowly changing and getting there. in terms of contributing. Ladies and gentlemen, this comes to an end of the session, a great session. I have enjoyed myself and I'm energized to learn. There are several things that we have gone through today. You all need to watch maybe 2-3 times more to get the real essence of it. You should have your organization should have a higher purpose. You need to grow more leaders than not followers. You need to trust people, what Jai said. Give back to the society. There are many more. You just need to watch it once again. Thank you very much. And needless to say, you see me energized with this session. Thank you very much, Vineet, Jai, and Harish.
Thank you.
Really, really value your time.
Thank you very much.